And for me, what was great about the whole project was working. It was actually a story about humanity, a song about humanity, and the fact that, I mean, it was his life story. That's what happened to him. So, we're all human beings, and that's what was the core of it for me. It wasn't so much about the politics. It was really about how we're all kind of united. And look, I'm not going to lie, to see the stuff up there, on stage was also a real trip.
Yeah. Moving on to another great cartoonist. Small anecdote. I've had this T-shirt since 1998.
Oh, but no, I can't quite see what it is.
It's Hendrix. It's your Hendrix.
Oh my God. Oh, that's wow. Wow.
And I had no idea. I had no idea that it was you, because I just bought it in a music store until maybe 7 years later when I picked up this book.
Wow.
And because Jimi Hendrix is one of my all-time favorite musicians.
Same.
It's just such a perfect fit for you. The way that I sell this book to people is I actually say it's the Bill Sienkiewicz of music as drawn by the Jimi Hendrix of comics.
That's funny. I mean, I so appreciate that. And I will say that the packager used pretty much that same thing to actually ask me to be involved. They said, we feel that what your work does is capture what Jimmy was trying to do, in music. And I was like, I love Hendrix, I'm in, and unfortunately it's like, you talk about the stories from the backstories. It's like, I know that this is when computers were starting to come in, and then we're also, because I was also doing a lot of collage and work. It's like, I went to the packager and I said, I want to try some computer type stuff. And I also want to try some collage and mixed media pieces. And I said, because Jimmy, he'd go to the studio and or he'd stand at Marshalls and just like, or, buzz, or do all kinds of experimentation. And I feel like I want to try some of that to push it. And it was like, no, it just has to be painted, just to keep it. So I kind of knew what I feel like I could see what it could have been, so I look at the Hendrix project. I'm proud of it, but I kind of feel that it's a pretty, not a failure exact, but it's not everything I see what it could have been, although I do know that the different arenas of criticism, like in comics, it was like, it would say, 128 page graphic novel by Bill Sienkiewicz on painted, blah, 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 plus like a 20-minute CD of never before heard, like, Hendrix outtakes. And then it's like, yeah, there you go. But I think, and then some music, magazines would say it's like there's 20 minutes of never before heard, Jimmy stuff. Oh, and by the way, there's a 128 page comic that goes with it, So it was, it was an unusual project, and certainly a labor of love. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed, it. At a certain point, though, I had to stop listening to Jimmy, and I think I started listening to The Cure, like maybe about 2/3 of the way through it. I just needed just kind of get away from the depressing aspect of knowing what pages I had coming up, his death and everything.
Oh yeah, especially towards the end.
Yeah.
But an interesting story about this book is that you were not the first artist that was tapped to draw it.
No, exactly. And it was actually supposed to be Will Eisner.
Will Eisner. And he personally recommended you, right?
Yes, he did. And he sort of became the spiritual grandfather or spiritual guide for the, Will and I, we would see each other all the time, especially in Europe or in South America. It was fun because we had this our own little unique sign off. We'd be like, see you in Timbuktu, like to each other at the end of a flight. But I would get together with Will and I'm blanking on his wife's name, and Harvey Kurtzman and his wife. It's like not Muriel, that's Joe Kubert's wife. No, I'm blank, but I would be like having dinner with the four of them, and I felt like I was with like grandparents. It was just like so remarkable, because the wives were like so, bubble, you got to eat, and it's like, I'm talking art with the guys, and it was just, it's a family, and that's what I meant about the rising tide lifting all the boats. But Will was just, he was just great. They were all great, and I think that's the one thing about this medium, that I think if there were more books and more interviews, I mean, after you're doing this, it's like, I would have loved to have seen like interviews with Stan Drake, guys that I grew up with, and that I love to see that kind of history being passed on, the stories, so.
But I mean, how did it make you feel knowing that one of the greatest of all time passed on a comic and personally said you were the better person to draw it?
Will and I go, it's like, I'm as always honored and blown away. I mean, it's like knocked me over with a feather at the time, and but at the same time, it's like I also thought, well, Will's a smart guy, so it's like I better step up my game. So if he's recommending me, it's like then he sees something that maybe I should investigate.
I've seen some of his layouts for it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm glad he made the switch.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain artistic differences, let's put it that way, in terms of cultural stuff. But yeah, it was. But they knew that they, being producer of the book, and also Will, knew that they wanted me to at least have the option of using his stuff if I wanted to. I always I loved everything I saw, and I thought, there were times I felt, for good or ill, I was just going to tell the story the way I was going to tell it, So it was really not meant to be any kind of, I'm not going to take what anybody says in here. I'm going to just, again, let the story dictate.
It's personally, it's my favorite thing you've done, just because it's Hendrix.
But I think like they were doing their due diligence. Oh, well, there you go. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was. I mean, after all the years I've drawn, it's like he was the one person I could draw out of my head. I don't think I could do it now, but I think I'd drawn him so many times. I could draw like a perfect likeness of him. I knew it all this, like the differences in spaces and shapes. Like that sailed. But there was a period there where it was like I could do stuff from memory. It's odd the things that you recall. Let's put it that way.
Is that what opened the door for you, doing album covers?
I wondered about that. Sometimes I think it did. I think certainly with like EPMD, and although I think EPMD came before, I think part of it was also just doing comics, because a lot of the hip hop guys are really into comics. Mm-hmm. So I think that certainly with like the RZA and Kid Cudi, and T.I. And even again, I'm also a big fan of Bruce Cockburn. So to work with.
You painted the album cover for Charity of Night.
Some cool project. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the whole kind of the whole package on that one, but yeah, I mean, it's an eclectic mix of stuff to listen to working. Let's put it that way.
and you teamed with Neil Adams to create art for Roger Waters. That must have been a trip.
That was a real trip, and Roger was great. He was so great. I mean, he invited Neil and I to the concert, so we got to sit like kind of right up front and see the work. I mean, as I was working on it, there was um, I think I was feeling a little overwhelmed with how many images. So I think Neil came in and sort of helped out on half of them, and but it was so great because we sort of it like our styles were similar enough, but yet different enough where they kind of melded. But it was again politically in terms of working with Roger. Like I really respect. People who take a stand, you know, yeah. It's like certainly in terms of you know, equal rights for Palestine and you know, and I think that was not during the George Bush years. So, you know, and for me, what was great about the whole project was working. It was actually a story about humanity, you know, a song about humanity and the fact that, you know, I mean, it was his life story. That's what happened to him. So, you know, we're all human beings, you know, and that's what was the core of it for me. You know, it wasn't so much about the politics. It was really about how we're all kind of united. And look, I'm not going to lie, to see the stuff up there, you know, on stage was also a real trip, you know. So it was great concert.
That's another one of my favorite musicians. Roger Waters.
Yeah, Roger, yeah. I mean, well, I remember I worked a long time. I would listen to him used to death, you know, just like, and plus, there were long periods where I would just like name animals and just listen to it on repeat because it was, you know, just or Dark Side, you know, or any of the stuff. I mean, you kind of get into a groove with listening to soundtracks. Yeah, you know. To sort of create, because there's a kind of a mantra that kind of repeats and it kind of works within the sort of circadian flow of my energy because it would rise and fall and everything else. But yeah, that was great. That was really terrific. I mean, again, it's like bring it back to what I said about the guy I just wanted to draw comics. The fact that I got to meet some of my idols, you know, my heroes, my musical heroes. It was just a trip, you know, like Robert Plant, you know, and others.
Denys Cowan. You're a frequent inker of his. Yeah. I asked him what it was like to be inked by you, and what he said was intimidating.
Oh, wow. Well, I love him to death. I mean, we go way back. We were puppies together, you know. So yeah, he's phenomenal, and he just keeps getting better and better. And like we have this like osmosis now, where we just, you know, I know exactly what he wants, you know, and or even when it's like I know what his intent is. It's like, you know. And he trusts me implicitly, and I trust him. So it's, you know, like our job that we just did on the question. It's, you know, the one with Jeff Lemire, and it was kind of interesting to kind of go back to it. It was he and I, because we both had a discussion about revisiting older characters, because I think he was doing that back in the 80s, I think. Yeah. Yeah. And I did I did a New Mutants and like revisit with Chris. I mean, that was a special anniversary issue, and it was sort of the same thing, because I thought, God, how do I even draw? How do I even approach this? You know, and I think Denys had some of that too with the question. But it's like riding a bike; it all comes back, you know. But yeah, no, I love working with Denys. So.
Yeah, I always wonder. I always wonder, like the higher ups at DC, when they have you inking. I'm surprised they allow you to ink. You know what I mean? Because I feel like they would want you on a book that is more purely you. Is this something you look for?
No, no. I mean, there was a Batman project that I was going to be doing with David Lapham a few years ago that kind of went sideways. Um, I think I mean, it's odd. As much as I feel like I'm part of comics, I don't necessarily feel like I'm a particular house style. Um, I do feel like I am. They let me in the sandbox to play with the toys, but it's like I'm kind of over in my own little area, you know. Um, and when I do finishes over people, I still try to. They want me to bring some of my stuff to it, but also at certain people, I want it to be. You know, I want to bring something to their pencils, and if it will help the work, you know, or have us achieve a certain look, but. But either they have me do, I love doing covers, but in terms of doing any interiors or whatever, I don't know if, I think probably my inclination would be to upset the apple cart. So I think that it might be a little bit of what happened with the New Mutants. It's like, I think, because if I were to do, you know, Batman, it would not be this sort of version of Batman that is out there right now. It would have to be some kind of special project where I could just run with it, you know, and do my own take on it. And because I don't necessarily feel like I can do licensing kinds of work, you know, but I also feel that in terms of these sort of popular versions of the characters that are out there, I don't know if I mean, I always sort of give a little spin to them on the covers, but I think a full issue, because they don't really ask, let's put it that way. They don't ask. Maybe they assume that I'm busy on things, and I probably am. But you know, it's still nice to be asked, even if I could say, you know, no, or thank you for asking, but you know.
Okay, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's the one, the Batman project, you know, like that is something I probably would have loved to, you know, at least done an arc of it, that character, you know, somewhere. I mean, I did, you know, a couple of black and white stories here and there, and I've done enough versions, and when I did do that City of Crime story, there were things that I was really enjoying doing, and so in a way, I got to do some of what I was thinking about in terms of Batman on interiors, but at the same time, since it never really came out, the one that got away there too. I mean, it eventually came out with a completely different artist, and I don't even know what happened to all the artwork.
You do portraits of people who have passed away, and I noticed that you're able to do them within the day. How fast are you?
Well, if I hear, like, it really depends on who it is, but I can do a portrait. I give myself about an hour to 2 hours to do a piece. You know, I'm not really technically trying to push anything in terms of design or anything else. I mean, it's just sort of, I'm just trying to capture the essence of who I feel that person is. So, you know, some pieces are black and white, some pieces are color, but it's about, occasionally I might go a little over 2 hours, but from start to finish, it's just, I just dive in, you know. The thing is of trying to find either reference photos that I have or that I can come across that actually capture who, like, at least a portion of who I feel the person is. And also sometimes it depends on the importance of the person. Like with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I felt like, you know, I wanted to do a full on portrait, like full color, you know. And some of the people mean more to me than they do maybe to other people. So they make, you know, like Brian Dennehy. I mean, I just thought he was such a great actor, you know. And like, I just remember when I did the piece for him with the that heavy shadow. It's like sometimes they become, just something I need to do. I should probably be doing more celebratory pieces, like birthday pieces for people, but there is one thing about the passing of someone, is that it makes it imperative to do the piece, because there is no, like, I actually started, I have 3 that I'm working on right now. One is actually 4. Guino created the Spanish character. I'm blanking on her name. I was going to say Esmeralda, but it's not right. That's how it is. Helen Reddy, Mac Davis, and then there was a Japanese actress who just passed away. Teku, I'm blanking on her last name. So, and there's been plenty that I've started on that I've never finished, and that I think if we do a book of them, I'll finish them up. But there's sometimes that I get behind. So just it's like selfishly, it's like I just can people please stop passing away? It's like, just think of me. It's like, make it all about me. It's like, we don't want to overwhelm this Polish guy. It's like, so we're gonna put a moratorium on death. It's like, I mean, if only that were possible, Yeah. But no, it's if anything, it's like I've had to fight off the feelings of feeling a little ghoulish, and also I get a little leery of reading the papers sometimes, or reading the news. It's like, because they say things happen in threes, and it's like, when one goes, it's almost like, okay, it's going to be a flurry. But I mean, like Chadwick Boseman, that was an absolute stunner in terms of surprise. I mean, like, like anybody, I think our responses can be from, like, oh, that's sad or whatever, or shocked. But my mouth was literally just agape when I read that. It was like I thought I would like needed to clear my eyes. Like, wait, what? It was just not good.
Yeah, when I was interviewing a couple of cosplayers, and then my friend messaged me that Chadwick Boseman died, and you can literally see my face going like,
yeah, exactly.
Because that one hit really hard. I was gonna ask you, is there any plans to put them out in a book at some point?
Yeah, I'm in discussions with everything is kind of like at odds, and or 6s and 7s, or whatever the expression is for things being thrown up in the air. But there's a couple of plans for like a traveling exhibit.
Okay.
And then there's also a book, but it'll probably be with a major publisher, because they have their legal department in terms of securing rights, because a lot of the photos I used were sort of general photos out there that I sort of ran with. So all that stuff will have to be secured.
I get it. One of my second to last question is, all right, this is gonna be the first time ever that I ask one of my interviewees about his butt. So
about my butt?
Yeah.
Oh, well, lucky you.